Take your time.
Enough merriment. Is it 10 minutes, Mr. President? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. President. I rise today without hesitation to absolutely categorically oppose this motion. I think it's a sad day, and this is the sort of politics I don't like being involved in. I'd much rather be involved in the politics that's benefiting our community and advancing issues around, as other members have mentioned today, that are of great concern to the community, like COVID and employment and economic certainty in our families. But the motion against the Premier, brought on by the opposition, is based on the flimsiest of straw arguments, and it's pure political theatre to create a narrative for their own purposes. The hypocrisy of those opposite has been pointed out by others before. Right now, former ministers who sat on this side when many of these people were either advisors or in government, Obeid and McDonald, are in the Supreme Court. They themselves are in the Supreme Court, and others in this chamber sat by whilst they were conducting their activities without a peep. We also, of course, have had mention of Shakette and, of course, the former member Ernest Wong. Now, I've known Gladys Berejiklian since the 1990s. I do not know a person at all with greater integrity, greater dedication to public duty or a work ethos. Only yesterday in this chamber at this spot we eulogised John Fahey, a man of great character. I will convey to the House that my last conversation with John, a year before he died, was full of wholesome praise of Gladys Berejiklian and what she was doing as Premier, and that was during the bushfire period. He talked about her integrity and her leadership, and no doubt he would have that same view today. John Fahey was all about public service, and Gladys Berejiklian is all about public service. She's a leader and a person of great integrity, and I've also known her, since my young Liberal days, to be a very, very private person. So let's be frank and let's be clear. She's been duped. She's been duped and misled by a smooth-talking grifter, as he's been described by other members. And Gladys is mortified by this, and she has revealed her heart publicly, a great personal anguish. And I felt that anguish when I've seen her doing that. She's revealed her heart and her private life, and she has acknowledged she's been duped. But she strongly states, and we have no reason to doubt this, and we've heard it time and time again from other people who have spoken on this side, he failed to get any advantage from his manipulation of her emotions. Gladys has always had Chinese walls around her private life. I think that comes from her banking career before she came into Parliament. And her comment, "I don't need to know," is a classic. That's out of my area. I need to know. I have Chinese walls, and I don't think it's sinister at all. Mr. President, I find it hard not to call out what I believe is an underlying sexism in this attack on the Premier. And those on the left would normally resort to protect sexism arguments when they need to. My side might not appreciate me raising this, but I do feel there is underlying sexism. She is being attacked on the flimsiest of evidence, mid a trial that she's not even in. She's being attacked for her relationship with a dodgy...
Have you not listened to anything that's corrupt?
You should just continue. Your time's running up.
To call injectors to order.
I've indicated clearly, no more interjections. We're almost at the end of this.
She's being attacked for her relationship with a dodgy man, one she admits was a mistake. A term for that on social media is slut-shaming, Mr. President, and it is in the dictionary, and it is a legitimate term used and embraced by
any of us.
That's right, being embraced by the feminist movement to describe the situation. And I'll read the definition. It is a practice of criticising women who are perceived to violate the expectations of behaviour regarding issues relating to their sexuality. How dare she have a secret relationship? How dare she have a secret relationship, and how dare she make bad choices about the men in her life? Now, if there's a bloke in that situation, this would not be an attack like the one that's being launched on her. And you just need to go to the right-wing media and see the subtext. this is often used against women in powerful positions. How many times have you heard the argument, oh, she slept her way to the top? Well, I tell you, when I worked at Fairfax, I heard it all the time. That's a sexism that's out there still today, and this is underlying this argument. Those opposite must be uncomfortable with this line of attack by the Premier. Mr President, this is the flimsiest of straw arguments. I'd like the House to hear from some of those with more authority than me about the Premier. Andrew Constance said yesterday, I'm not going to go into private discussions with colleagues, but I can tell you one thing, I wouldn't be standing here making it crystal clear she's been a wonderful, wonderful leader and continues to be, and we're going to stay that course, he said. And Matt Keane, he said about her leadership, praised the leadership during the COVID-19 crisis, has been faultless.
Order!
Mr. Donnelly, you want
Order! Please don't acknowledge interjections.
make a contribution rather than yelling at me from over there. Everyone is allowed a personal life, even Gladys. No one is perfect, but her leadership through this pandemic is as close as you can get.
I will call members to order if I get one more interjection.
The respected Attorney-General, Mark Speakman, described Mrs Berejiklian as an outstanding Premier, and Scott Morrison described her as a tremendous Premier who has my absolute support. And I thought she showed a lot of courage yesterday, it's the day before yesterday, but I also thought she showed a lot of humility, which is the Gladys I know, and it's the Gladys I know. We're all human, and particularly in these areas of our lives, and Gladys is an extremely private person and a person of tremendous integrity. She's a great friend, and I know she's been getting many messages of support. Bill Shorten said, similarly, the former opposition leader Bill Shorten described the saga as pretty human. It's all pretty human, isn't it, he said. I don't hold that against Gladys. I mean, she's a very dignified person. I met with her on plenty of occasions, and as a result, I think she would have been embarrassed by listening to those phone tapes of her conversation. She's a smart lady who I think has been punching well below her weight with perhaps a much more average guy. I don't know. I have sympathy with Gladys at this very human level. And Anthony Albanese said he refused to call for the Premier's resignation, saying the Premier should be judged for the fact that should not be judged for the fact that she's had a relationship with someone. But let's be clear, let's not just hear from people in the Beltway or people in this chamber. Let's hear from people outside of this chamber. And might I say, the mover of this motion said the people in New South Wales are demanding she step down. Well, it's not what I'm hearing. I'm not getting emails or text messages saying that from people who aren't in the party. I'm getting overwhelming support. But let's look at WSFM Radio, which is a major one in Western Sydney. Jonesy and Amanda Keller yesterday morning did a broadcast, and they ran a quote from the Premier. Quote, I trusted someone I had known for a long time, and I feel really, really let down. And Amanda Keller said, quote, this poor woman. We all wondered, is she having a life? She seems so driven by this job. We need strong leadership at the moment with COVID, with the economy, with all this stuff. We don't want to let her go. Mr President, as a result of that being put on WSM's Facebook, yet last night there were 650 comments, 11.6 thousand views. Let's look at some of the comments, because I couldn't find any negative ones about the Premier. Let's see what the people were saying, a selection of those comments. So, Sue, well, that's the right wing I commented on, you weren't here. I commented and you weren't here. Sue Broughton, she said she should remain Premier. She has had one of the toughest jobs in 2020 and has handled it well. So what if she has a past and a private life? We're all entitled to downtime. Leslie said, these are women, without a doubt, she is the only Premier who has made any sense good decisions through COVID.
I've indicated I will call members to order. You weren't in the chamber. I'll just repeat again. I will call the next member to order if I get one more interjection.
Go long shot.
Sandy Page said on Facebook, yes, she should remain as Premier. I can emphasise with betrayal by a trusted loved one. Hang in there, Gladys Berejiklian. You will learn, you'll be stronger and make better decisions following this experience. There are so many. Miley Long, she wrote, of course she should stay as Premier. She is a wonderful Premier. Her only sin is to have bad taste in men. A lot of empathy, a lot of support from women, overwhelmingly. I could go on, Mr President, there's a lot. Joan Hobbs, she wrote, yes, they need to stop hounding her. If she were a bloke, they would pat him on his back. Good on you, mate. Lisa Mason says, if Andrews can keep his job after being responsible for 800 deaths, Gladys definitely should keep hers. Mr President, that's the people spoken. The people have spoken. 900 comments. I couldn't find a negative one. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Opposition is on the wrong issue here. The Premier is supported strongly by the committee and by our government.